Welcome to another JavaScript tutorial, and in this tutorial I will be answering 3 questions about functions. The first question is what are functions, the second is why would we use functions, and the third is how do we use functions. So the first question, what are functions, is pretty easy. And I'm also answering how do we use a function a little bit too. I'll be going deeper into that later. So a function is a group of code that can be called in a minimum of 4 characters, several times, however many times you want throughout a script, one page, uh, or several scripts. But I'll get into that on a later tutorial. So it's an easy way to do a lot of stuff several times. And why would we use it? Because it is an easy way to do a lot of stuff several times, and because if you're doing the same thing a lot throughout a script, but you have to change it just a little to tweak it, get it a little bit more accurate, or change what it says, what it does a little bit, you can change it in one place rather than changing it in a lot of places, which is nice. And then also, it just it's easier than having to write out everything or copy and paste and stuff a ton of times when you could just write 4 characters and have it done all at once. And last question is how do we use a function? And how do we use it? Well, as you know, we declare a variable by typing var, the name, equal sign, what it will equal, and then ending with a semicolon. It's a little different for a function, but it's a lot of the same concepts. Well, variable stands for var, or var stands for variable. And function is really straightforward. It means function. I'm declaring a function. It tells JavaScript you're declaring a function. You put a space in, and then you type out the name of your function. It follows basically, I think, exactly the same rules as a variable name. You cannot start it with numbers, but you can have numbers anywhere else. You cannot use special characters like that, but you can have underscores. You cannot have spaces, all of that. It is case sensitive when you try to call a function, so you'll have to remember that. And then once you're done, instead of putting an equal sign like you do for variables, you put a opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis. Well, in between those parentheses, you can put parameters, but we'll go over parameters in a couple minutes. But right now we aren't. So you open and close it with parentheses, and that tells JavaScript, okay, this is the name of the function, and this is where it ends, and here's the parentheses where parameters might go. They're optional. You don't need this space here, but you do need to have a curly brace that opens it and a curly brace that closes it, and that tells JavaScript, okay, this is all that is included in this function. When this function is called, I need to do everything here. So that's why those are there. So yeah, and now just inside those 2 curly braces, that's where we put everything we want our function to do. So say we wanted to do document.write you called a function. And when I say called, I know it's probably, oh, and notice there's no semicolon at the end. It's just a closing thing here, but you do need semicolons inside the function. But notice I say call the function. You're not really calling it. You're not going to a phone and dialing its number and saying, "Oh, hey, can you do your job, please?" No. I don't know why they started calling it call, but they did, and they called. I'm using called a lot here, and they called when you make a function. They called that declaring a function. Um, so I don't really know why, but just know when somebody says call a function or call a method, it means use it, uh, tell your script to do it uh, with whatever parameters they tell you to use. Uh, so yeah, so we'll change this down here. Actually, no, we won't. Now, we remember this will print hello world, or LO, right? LO, right here. Okay, so document. So this should also, this should write, you call the function LO, right? Well, no. Why? Why isn't it doing this? Because when you declare a function, nothing in the function is done until it's called. It's just there ready to go, but it won't do anything unless you call it. So, if we type this is a function, it should work now, right? No. Now it's not even doing anything. Why? Because even though we called the name of the function, like we would a variable, you have to put parentheses so that JavaScript knows it to look for the function with that name. And if there's parameters, you put the parameters you need to give it inside these parentheses too. So now it will work. It will say you called the function. Okay, now on to the magic word parameters. It's a sort of big word, and it's, it's not hard to explain, really. So we'll just go up here and put string, or str for string. It's short for string. A lot of people will shorten string to str. So now, what is a parameter? A parameter is a dynamic variable within a function. And dynamic means it changes. It doesn't have to change, but it can change. It's not static, which means it can't change. So it's dynamic, meaning whenever you call it, you can give it a different parameter, and it'll do something different with it. it. It's going to always change slightly. So you put a string in as the parameter, and remember, strings have to be wrapped with this quotation marks. Now it will print hello world. Now, what if we just decided, I don't need to use those parameters, which is possible. This is a function where it doesn't do anything except with the parameter. But some functions, they'll do stuff that the parameter is just helpful with. Well, what if you don't want to use it? Well, if you don't put it there, then the function you're calling is going to be called undefined, because JavaScript knows the function you're trying to call as a function with a parameter. If you don't supply the number of parameters it needs, it's not going to know what function to use, and you're going to get a big error, and your script is going to fall apart. So, well, okay, I'm also sort of wrong there. Why is it printing something out to the screen? Well, it is knowing it. Okay, I lied a little bit. It does know which function you're trying to call, and it calls it. But if you don't supply the parameter, it's not gonna work, because it's still gonna make your script fall apart, because now it doesn't have the information it needs, it requests. So when you write a variable that doesn't exist, JavaScript says, okay, that's undefined. That's the variable. If you don't define a variable's value, it's undefined. Um, Null is different than undefined. Null is a definition, meanwhile undefined isn't. So that's how that works. Now what if we had multiple parameters, like string and string2? Okay, that works. But how do we do it down here? We just separate them by a comma in both places. Oh shoot, didn't mean to press play. Anyway, if we refresh down here, yeah, get out of my face. There was an extra tab that came up. It'll say hello world, just like it should. Oh shoot. Anyway, ah, sorry, I accidentally opened up iTunes and I had to close it before anything, so I had to pause. Alright, back down here. So that's how you declare a function. That's what a function is, why we would use a function, and how we use a function, along with how we use parameters. And you can have an endless list of parameters up here, but you have to have the same parameters down here. And remember, this hello is equal to string or str, and this is equal to string 2, or vice versa. String is equal to hello, and string 2 is equal to world. Um, it has to go in the order the parameters are declared as the order of in the function declaration line. That's what I'm going to call it. I don't know if there's a real name for it. It has to go in the same order. You can't put like world here and then hello there. It's your function is, unless you're really good and you determined for it to be like that. It's not going to change string 2 to equal world if world is put here in the place of string. Okay? Now, there's ways around that when you're coding, but for the most part, no. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like or dislike button corresponding to how you felt about this video, and I will catch you guys later.